Welcome to our channel, Crime Loom, the place where true crime stories come alive. The city never forgot the night it all began. A young journalist, Amir Khan, was found dead in a cold parking garage. On his cracked phone screen, one final message glowed in the dark. "If anything happens to me, it's not an accident." That single line set off a chain of events that would shake the city, expose a web of power and corruption, and test the courage of one detective who refused to stay silent. This is the story of the final message, a crime that changed everything. The rain started before midnight. It was soft at first, then steady and cold. In an empty parking garage, a broken phone lay on the ground. Its cracked screen glowed in the dark. Detective Lena Ortiz stood over it with her coat pulled tight. Her breath showed in the cold air. She stared at the screen but did not touch it. A man lay a few feet away. His name was Amir Khan. People knew him from the news. He was a young journalist who chased dangerous stories. Now he was lying still on the hard concrete. His suit was torn, his lip was cut, and one of his eyes was swollen. His wallet was missing. To some, it would look like a robbery. To Lena, it looked like something more. She bent down and looked closer at the phone. The screen showed one message. The words were short and clear. "If anything happens to me, it's not an accident." Lena read it twice. It did not sound like fear. It sounded like a warning. A young officer walked over holding a clipboard. "Detective," he said, "we marked the shell casings." "There were no gunshots," Lena said calmly. "Those aren't casings. They're bits of broken metal." The officer's face turned red. He nodded and stepped back. Lena did not mind. Everyone had first nights like this. She walked slowly around the scene. She saw a dark smear near a pillar. It might be oil, it might be blood. She saw a faint shoe print with a broken heel. She marked it with a flag. Near a drain, she found a small metal button. It had a strange R symbol pressed into it. She dropped it into a bag and wrote a note. Sirens echoed far away. Soon the coroner team arrived. They lifted Amir with quiet hands. Lena watched them work. It always felt wrong, even when it was done carefully. It felt like closing a book too soon. Lena picked up the phone at last. The glow on the screen had dimmed, but the message still showed. She looked at Amir's face, then at the words again. In the silence of the garage, the message felt louder than any siren. At 4 in the morning, Lena was back at the precinct. The hall smelled of coffee and wet coats. She sat at her desk and typed Amir's name into the system. His stories filled the screen. She read headlines. Eviction protests, missing permits, a strange fire, hidden companies. The same name appeared again and again, Rafael de Souza. Everyone in the city knew de Souza. He was a real estate giant. He owned towers of glass and marble. He owned companies that owned other companies. People said he owned silence too. His name was spoken carefully, like someone might be listening. Lena clicked on a video interview. Amir sat with a microphone in his hand. His smile was small, but his eyes were sharp. "The truth leaves a trail," he said. "People think they hide it, but they only move it. If you watch long enough, you see where it goes." She called the newsroom where Amir worked. A tired editor answered. His voice shook when she told him the news. "I need his notes," Lena said. "Drafts, files, anything." "Some files are gone," the editor said. "He kept things hidden. He said if we didn't know, we couldn't be forced to hand them over." "Was he scared?" Lena asked. "Not scared," the editor said. "Focused. Like someone climbing a wall." "Did he say who wanted him quiet?" "He called them upstairs," the editor said. I asked which upstairs. "He said all of them." Lena wrote it down and ended the call. She sat for a moment. The rain tapped on the windows. She felt time slipping like water through her fingers. She went to the lab. A tech was working on Amir's phone. Tools were spread on the table like silver bones. "Any luck?" Lena asked. "It's locked tight," the tech said. "But I'll get through." She nodded and left. She poured coffee but barely touched it. She thought about the broken shoe print, the metal button, and the message that had already spread like smoke in her mind. At 6, the tech called her back. The phone was open. The message still shone on the screen. Lena scrolled through the files. There were calls from unknown numbers, short texts that looked like nothing, and calendar notes that pointed to the garage. she noticed an app with a timer icon. "What's that?" she asked. "A delayed send app," the tech explained. "You write a message, set rules. If the phone shuts down or loses signal too long, the message sends." Lena tapped the app. A list of names filled the screen. There were more than 50. Some were journalists, some lawyers, some activists. At the top was the message she had already read. The app showed it had been sent at 10:06 p.m. when the phone lost signal in the garage. Amir had planned for silence. He made sure his voice would speak even if he could not. Lena scrolled further. Another message was set to send later. Its title was Keys, but it was locked. It asked for a code from a special device. "If the killer found it, it's gone," the tech said. "If not, it may be at his home." Lena backed out and looked at the photo gallery. She found pictures of documents, contracts, and maps. One showed a door with the twisted R symbol, the same as the button she had found. Another showed a black SUV with a valet tag marked Regent Tower. She printed the photos and pinned them on a board. She drew slow lines between them. "Regent Tower, Twisted R, a shell company." She called the garage manager for camera footage. He said the cameras were down. He promised to check logs, but he never called back. By dawn, the city was waking. Lena drove to Regent Tower. The sidewalks were wet. The air smelled of coffee. The tower's lobby was glass and marble, bright but cold. A guard watched her with blank eyes. "Detective Ortiz," she said, showing her badge. "I need last night's valet footage." "Cameras were down," the guard said. "Of course," Lena replied. "Then give me the logs." "It's early," he said. "Come back later." She stared until he looked away. He made a call. A woman in a gray blazer arrived with a thin folder. The logs were neat but empty of truth. "Do you have a tenant with a logo like this?" Lena asked, sketching the twisted R. The woman's eyes flicked to it, then away. "Many tenants," she said quickly. "You just answered my question," Lena said. She handed the folder back. "I'll be back with a warrant." Outside, the rain had slowed. Lena stood under the gray sky. Her phone buzzed. The lab had matched the metal button. It belonged to Jackets from a private security firm, the kind that rented men to the highest bidder. Some guarded, some silenced. Lena slid her phone into her pocket. She looked up at the tall tower. She did not know what door she had unlocked, but she knew she would keep turning the key until something gave. The morning light was pale and thin. Clouds hung low over the city, heavy and gray. Detective Lena Ortiz sat in her car across the street from Regent Tower. She watched people go in and out. Businessmen in dark coats, assistants carrying folders, guards with blank faces. The tower looked quiet on the outside, but Lena knew it was not quiet inside. It was a place where whispers were buried before they reached the air. Her phone buzzed again. It was the lab. They had more on the small button she had found. The twisted R symbol was not just a logo. It was tied to a private security firm called Regent Shield. They were known for guarding high-profile clients. They were also whispered about in police files. Sometimes they broke heads instead of protecting them. Lena wrote it down. Regent Shield, Regent Tower, Rafael de Souza. The lines were starting to connect, but they were still thin. She needed more. She drove to Amir's apartment. The building was old, with cracked steps and peeling paint. Inside, it smelled like dust and fried food. She knocked on the door. No answer. She showed her badge to the landlord, and he opened it for her. The apartment was small and neat. Papers covered the desk. Books stacked against the wall. A single bed by the window. The air felt still, as if Amir had left it only hours before. She walked through slowly, careful not to disturb more than she had to. On the desk, she found notebooks filled with names and numbers. Some were crossed out. Some had arrows pointing to them. On the floor under the desk was a locked metal box. She tried to open it but could not. She bagged it to take back to the lab. She checked drawers, shelves, even the fridge. In the freezer, hidden behind ice trays, she found a small device with a USB plug, a hardware key. Her pulse quickened. It might be the key to the second message on his phone. She drove back to the precinct, the device sitting on the seat beside her. The rain had stopped, but the streets were slick. She parked and hurried to the lab. The tech plugged the device into Amir's phone. The locked message opened. The title was Keys, Inside were files. Dozens of them. Documents, voice recordings, scanned letters. Lena read quickly. They showed payments from D'Souza's companies to city officials. Bribes hidden as consulting fees. Permits pushed through in exchange for money. They showed eviction orders signed in secret meetings. They showed voices caught on tape. One recording played. A man's voice said, "He's asking questions we can't allow." Another voice, deeper and colder, said, "Then silence him." The room felt heavier as the words echoed from the small speaker. The tech looked up, pale. "That's enough evidence to sink a career," he said. "Not just one," Lena said softly. "Maybe more." She copied the files onto secure drives. She wrote a list of the officials' names. It was longer than she wanted to see. She closed the folder and leaned back. Amir had gathered proof that could break the tower from its top floors down to its basement. He had paid with his life. Lena knew what would happen next. The message had already gone out. People would talk. Reporters would dig. But for the case to stand in court, she needed the chain to be clear. She needed to know who gave the order and who carried it out. She left the precinct and drove to the address of Regent Shield. Their office was in a plain brick building. A brass plate by the door carried the name. Inside, the lobby was bare except for two men at a desk. They looked more like fighters than clerks. "I'm Detective Ortiz," she said, showing her badge. "I need to ask about a client of yours." One man smirked. "We don't talk about clients." "You will," Lena said. She held up the photo of the button with the twisted R. "One of your men lost this at a crime scene. You want me to trace it back myself, or do you want to help?" The men's eyes shifted. One stood. "Wait here." Minutes passed. The man returned with a folder. It listed employees assigned to Regent Tower the night before. One name stood out. Victor Hale, a former soldier. A man with a history of bar fights and closed police reports. Lena copied the file and left. Outside, the air was heavy again, though the rain had stopped. She drove to Victor Hale's listed address, a small apartment near the docks. She knocked, but no one answered. She waited. No sound inside. She went back to her car and watched. Hours passed. At last, a black SUV pulled up. A large man got out, shoulders broad, jacket stiff. His heel left a mark on the wet ground, a broken pattern, the same as the print in the garage. Lena's heart tightened. She had found her thread. She followed him at a distance as he walked inside. She called for backup, but none came fast. Too many cases, too few hands. She stayed in her car, watching the dark windows. Her phone buzzed again. It was the editor from Amir's paper. His voice was low, urgent. "Detective, I got an email this morning." It's Amir's voice. He sent it before he died. He said, "If I disappear, tell Ortiz the trail ends at Regent Tower." Lena gripped the wheel. The trail was pointing straight at Victor Hale and his employers. She knew she had only a short window before someone warned him she was watching. She stepped out of the car, her badge in one hand, her other hand close to her gun. She walked toward the building. The sound of gulls filled the air. The dock smelled of salt and old wood. At the door, she paused. She thought of Amir's last message. She thought of the files labeled keys. She thought of the names on the list. She pushed the door open and stepped inside. The hallway was dim and narrow. A radio played somewhere. The floorboards creaked under her boots. She moved slow, her breath steady. She knew she was walking into the storm Amir had warned her about, and she knew she could not turn back now. The hallway smelled of smoke and damp wood. Detective Lena Ortiz stepped carefully, her hand near her gun. Somewhere inside the apartment, a radio played a low tune. She followed the sound until she reached a door half open. She pushed it slowly. The room was dim. A large man sat at a table, his back to her. A beer bottle stood by his hand, half empty. On the table lay a black jacket with the twisted R symbol stitched on the sleeve. His boots were by the chair, one heel worn down with a broken pattern. "Victor Hale," Lena said. The man froze. His hand tightened around the bottle but did not move. Slowly he turned his head. His face was rough, scarred near the jaw. His eyes were small, sharp, and tired. "You're police," he said. His voice was deep, flat. "Detective Ortiz," she replied. She showed her badge. "We need to talk." He leaned back in the chair. "About what?" "About Amir Khan." Lena said. About the garage. About who told you to be there. Victor gave a short laugh with no humor. You think I'm going to say it out loud? I think you will, Lena said. Because I already know. The button from your jacket was at the scene. Your shoe print, too. I only need you to confirm who gave the order. Victor's eyes narrowed. He picked up the bottle and drank, then set it down with a dull sound. Orders come from the top. Always from the top. From D'Souza? Lena asked quietly. Victor did not answer. His silence was answer enough. You killed him, Lena said. A young man who told the truth. Victor looked away. He asked questions he shouldn't. They all asked, but he pushed too far. My job was simple. Lena's voice was firm. Your job was murder. Victor's jaw tightened. His hand flexed on the table. For a moment, Lena thought he might attack, but then his shoulders dropped. He looked older, tired. They won't let me talk, he said. Not if I want to keep breathing. Lena stepped closer. You think they'll protect you? You're a tool to them. Tools get thrown away. But if you talk, if you tell me everything, you get protection. You get a chance. Victor's eyes searched hers. He looked like a man standing on a cliff, wind pulling at him from both sides. Finally, he nodded once. I'll talk, he said. Lena pulled out her recorder. Start from the beginning, Victor spoke slowly. He said D'Souza had hired Regent Shield for more than guarding buildings. They handled problems. Journalists, activists, anyone who stood in the way. Amir had been on their list for weeks. D'Souza gave the order to make it look simple, make it look random. Victor admitted he followed Amir that night. He waited in the garage. When Amir arrived, Victor struck. He hit him, knocked him down, and made it look like a robbery. He left the body on the concrete and walked away. Lena listened without speaking. She let the recorder take it all in. When he finished, Victor sat back, breathing heavy. Now you have it, everything, but it won't help. You don't know how high it goes. D'Souza is only the name in the front. Behind him there are others. Rich men, politicians, they pull the strings. I'm nothing. You're nothing to them. Lena's voice was steady. The truth is something. And now it's on record. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. 3 sharp raps. Victor's face went pale. He stood quickly. They're here, he whispered. They know. Lena drew her gun and moved to the side of the door. Who is it? She called. Silence. Then the door burst open. 2 men in dark suits rushed in. Their movements were quick, trained. One held a gun. The other swung a baton. Lena fired once. The shot hit the wall near the gunman's arm, forcing him back. Victor grabbed his beer bottle and smashed it across the baton man's head. The man fell with a grunt. The other fired, but the shot went wide. Lena pushed forward, slammed her shoulder into him, and knocked the gun away. It clattered on the floor. Victor kicked the man hard in the stomach, and he fell. The room went still. Lena's breath came fast. Victor bent, grabbed the gun, and checked the hall. Empty. They'll keep coming, he said. Then we move now, Lena said. She grabbed the recorder, pocketed it, and motioned to the door. They hurried down the hall, out the back door, and into the gray morning. The street was wet, quiet. No cars moved. Where can we go? Victor asked. The precinct, Lena said. It's the only safe place now. Victor laughed bitterly. Safe? You think your walls will stop them? They'll hold long enough, Lena said. And once this recording is in the system, the truth will spread. They can't stop it all. Victor shook his head but followed. They drove in silence. Lena's hands gripped the wheel tight. She knew Victor was right. The men they were fighting had reach. But Amir's files, Victor's words, the recordings, together they were heavy. Heavy enough to break through. At the precinct, Lena walked Victor in through the side door. She led him to an interview room. She made copies of the recording and locked them in evidence. She called her captain. The captain arrived, tired and wary. Lena played the recording. The captain's eyes grew dark. This is enough to bring D'Souza in, he said. It's more than him, Lena replied. Victor says there are others. Politicians, men with money. The trail goes higher. The captain rubbed his temples. That's dangerous ground, Ortiz. Once we move, we can't go back. We already moved, Lena said. Amir made sure of it. Victor sat in the corner, silent. He looked like a man caught between 2 worlds. By afternoon, news had already started to leak. Reporters stood outside the precinct. Cameras flashed. The story of Amir's death was spreading, tied now to names that people whispered about for years. Lena stood at the window, watching the storm build. She thought of Amir's message. If anything happens to me, it's not an accident. The world was beginning to see, and she knew this was only the beginning. The precinct felt tense. Phones rang louder than usual, voices carried down the halls. Reporters crowded outside, their cameras flashing every time the doors opened. Detective Lena Ortiz stood in the interview room doorway. She watched Victor Hale sitting at the table with his hands folded. He looked restless, like a man waiting for a storm that he knew was coming. She stepped inside. "You're safe here for now," she said. Victor gave a short laugh. "Safe? You don't know these people. They have eyes in every corner. They have money to pay anyone. Your badge won't stop them." Lena sat across from him. Her voice was calm. "Then talk. The more you give us, the harder it will be for them to bury the truth. The files Amir saved are strong, but your testimony will make it stronger." Victor leaned forward. "You don't understand. D'Souza is not the top. He's a face for the cameras. Behind him are men who never sit in the light. They use his name when things go well. When things go wrong, they'll cut him off and vanish." "Then we start with him," Lena said, "and we follow the trail." Victor shook his head but said no more. His eyes drifted to the window. Lena stood and left the room. Her captain was waiting in the hall. His face was tight with worry. "The mayor's office called," he said. "They told us to step carefully. They don't want a public mess." Lena frowned. "A man is dead. A journalist who tried to tell the truth, and we have proof of who ordered it." The captain sighed. "I know, but politics moves slower than justice." "Sometimes politics is what kills justice," Lena said. He looked at her with tired eyes. "You push too hard, Ortiz, and you'll find yourself on the outside. Be smart." Lena walked past him without answering. She returned to her desk. On her computer, Amir's files glowed like embers. Payments, contracts, voices. Every line felt heavier the more she read. By evening, news channels were running Amir's last message on repeat. "If anything happens to me, it's not an accident." The words scrolled across screens. People on the street carried signs with his name. The city was waking up. At midnight, Lena was still at her desk when her phone rang. It was a blocked number. She answered. A low voice said, "Detective Ortiz, stop digging." "You don't know who you're fighting." Lena kept her voice steady. "Who is this?" "You don't need a name," the voice said. "You need to understand. Close the case. Call it a robbery. Walk away. If you don't, you'll end up like him." The line went dead. Lena set the phone down. Her pulse was steady, not racing. She had heard threats before, but this one felt colder. It felt like someone watching from close by. She checked the hall. Empty. She locked her office door and kept working. The next morning, she called the district attorney's office. She asked for a warrant for Regent Tower. The clerk on the line sounded nervous. "We'll review your request," the clerk said. "It may take time." "You don't have time," Lena replied. "The evidence is clear. People are already dead," the clerk only repeated. "It may take time." Lena hung up. She felt the walls closing in. The system itself was stalling her. Later that day, she went back to the interview room. Victor sat with his head down. He looked older than before. "They called me," Lena said. "Told me to stop." "Do you know who gave the order?" Victor raised his head slowly. "If they called you, it means they're watching you. They know you're close." "Then give me names," she pressed. He hesitated, then whispered, "There's a council. Men in suits, old and rich. They meet in high floors where cameras can't see. They use D'Souza as their mask, but one name is louder than the others. Senator Raymond Cole, he's the one who pushes hardest." Lena wrote it down. Her hand was steady, but her stomach tightened. A senator. That explained the silence from the DA's office. That explained the warning call. Victor leaned closer. "Once you say his name out loud, you're marked. Are you ready for that?" Lena looked at him. Amir was ready. "I will be too." Hours later, she drove through the city. Rain had returned, soft and steady. The streets glistened under the lights. She thought of Amir's apartment, his notes, his hidden device. She thought of the files labeled keys. She thought of Victor's words. Orders come from the top. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a message, not a call. No number showed. Just one line of text. Last warning. She deleted it without replying. That night, as she parked near her home, she saw a black SUV at the corner. Its engine was running, lights off. She did not stop. She drove past slowly, memorized the plate, and turned away. Inside her apartment, she kept the lights low. She checked the locks twice. She sat at her kitchen table with her gun beside her. The city outside hummed with late-night life, but she felt the silence pressing close. The case had stopped being only about Amir. It was about how far the rot reached, and how many were willing to look away. Lena knew she could not step back now. Too many eyes were already on her. Too much truth was already in her hands. Somewhere above her, in glass towers with clean floors and closed doors, men were deciding her fate. But somewhere else, in streets and homes, people were chanting Amir's name. The message he left had not died. Lena closed her eyes for a moment. She thought of the journalist's last words. She whispered them to herself. "It's not an accident." When she opened her eyes, her resolve was clear. Tomorrow she would walk into Regent Tower with or without a warrant. Tomorrow she would pull the mask from Rafael de Souza's face, and then she would follow the trail higher, no matter where it led. The storm had begun, and there was no turning back. The morning sky was pale and colorless. Clouds hung like heavy sheets over the city. Detective Lena Ortiz sat in her car across from Regent Tower. The tall glass building looked calm, but she knew what it hid inside. She had not slept much. Coffee kept her awake, but it was not enough. What kept her sharp was the weight of the case. Amir's face, Amir's message, Victor's confession, the files on her desk. It all pointed here. Her phone buzzed. It was the captain. His voice was firm but strained. "Ortiz, you can't go in there alone. Wait for the warrant. Wait for backup." "We've been waiting," Lena said. "The longer we wait, the more they cover their tracks." "You don't understand," the captain said. "This is bigger than De Souza, bigger than Regent Tower. If you push too fast, the whole thing collapses. And you with it." Lena hung up without answering. She stepped out of the car, pulled her coat tight, and walked toward the tower. Inside, the lobby was bright and cold. Guards in black suits watched her closely. She showed her badge. "Detective Ortiz. I'm here to see Rafael de Souza." The guard's jaw tightened. "He's not expecting you?" "He'll see me," Lena said. Her voice carried the weight of someone who would not be stopped. The guard made a call. Minutes later, an elevator door opened. A man in a gray suit motioned for her to step inside. She did. The elevator rose in silence. Her reflection looked back at her in the glass. Tired eyes, steady mouth, one hand resting near her sidearm. The doors opened on the top floor. The office was wide, with tall windows that looked out over the city. Marble floors, glass desks, quiet hums of machines. At the far end stood Rafael de Souza. He wore a dark suit, his hair silver, his smile thin. "Detective Ortiz," he said smoothly. "To what do I owe this visit?" Lena walked toward him. "Amir Khan, the journalist you ordered silenced." De Souza's smile did not move. "You should be careful with accusations. Words like that can ruin careers." "They can also end them," Lena said. She pulled a recorder from her pocket and pressed play. Victor Hale's voice filled the office. "Orders come from the top." "Always from the top." De Souza gave the word. For the first time, De Souza's smile cracked. His eyes darkened. "You think that little recording will matter?" "I have lawyers, judges, friends in high places. I have protection you can't even imagine." "Protection won't help you," Lena said. "Amir's files are already out. The whole city is listening. You're finished." De Souza stepped closer. His voice dropped low and sharp. "You think you've won? You're a small piece in a large game. Take me down and another will rise. The men above me will never let this stand. You'll be crushed before you realize it." Lena held his gaze. "Then let them try. The truth is out. You can't silence it now." The office door burst open. 2 men in suits rushed in. Before they could move further, uniformed officers poured in behind them. The captain stepped in, his face hard. "Rafael de Souza, you're under arrest," he said. De Souza's smile returned, but it was weaker. He raised his hands slowly as cuffs clicked around his wrists. He looked at Lena. "This isn't over." "You'll see." Lena watched him led away. Her heartbeat steady. It wasn't victory yet, but it was a start. Hours later, the precinct buzzed like a hive. Reporters shouted questions from outside. Phones rang nonstop. The files Amir left, the confession, the arrest, it was all exploding across the city. Victor Hale was placed under protection. His words would be used in court. He sat in a quiet room, staring at the floor, looking like a man who had lost too much to win anything back. Lena sat at her desk. Papers piled high, screens glowing. The captain came in and set a hand on her shoulder. "You did it," he said. "You brought him down." Lena shook her head. "We only pulled the first mask." "There are more," the captain sighed. "Maybe, but one mask down is better than none. The rest will come piece by piece." Lena looked out the window. Protesters filled the streets, carrying signs with Amir's name. His message had spread to every corner of the city. People chanted, shouted, raised their voices. For once, silence was not winning. That night, Lena drove to the cemetery. The air was still, cool. The sky was heavy with clouds, but clear of rain. She found Amir's grave, a simple stone with his name carved clean. She stood there for a long moment. She took the phone from her pocket, the same phone with the cracked screen. The glow was gone now. It was silent. She set it gently against the headstone. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew they would come for you, but you made sure the world would hear you anyway." The wind moved through the grass, soft and low. Somewhere in the distance, a bell rang. Lena closed her eyes. She felt the weight of the case, the weight of the city, the weight of truth. She felt tired but not broken. She opened her eyes again and straightened her shoulders. The storm was not over. It was only beginning. But Amir's final message had lit the path, and she would follow it no matter how dark it became. The world had changed. There was no going back. The storm did not end with Rafael de Souza's arrest. The files Amir left behind kept spreading, reaching new hands, opening new doors, and raising new questions. Some of the powerful fell. Others are still hiding in the shadows, waiting for their turn to be unmasked. But one truth remains. Amir's final message could not be silenced. A single line from a broken phone lit a fire too bright to put out. His words changed the city, and they still echo today. This was the final message, a crime story that changed everything. Subscribe to Crime Loom, and join us as we unravel more heists, mysteries, and untold legends.